Hiya, it's LindaLee, and I have an eco dye here that I'm going to be taking out of the pot, and we're going to take a look at what happened today. It's always a mystery. We never know for sure how it's going to turn out, but I've got my pot here. It's still on the, well, it's pretty warm. It's not actually hot, but pretty warm. So let me... I have a lava rock that I use. Actually, it's not even a lava rock. It's just a rock. I use this every time I do a boil to keep everything weighted down. Let me just move this aside. And this is what my brew looks like. It's really dark today. I used a lot of the darker red-leafed plants. And I'm just going to put some cooler water in here just to cool it down just a little bit more so that I can handle the paper bundle itself. Okay. Give it kind of a little bit of a rinse so it cools it down all the way through. So as you can see, I kind of bundle it really tight. I wrap it, tie it in a knot, wrap it, tie it in a knot. On both sides, there's knots. Okay. Let's just go ahead and dump this real quick. See how dark that water is? So I did, the water actually had coffee in it. I also, once I stopped boiling it, poured a can of beet juice in there. So we'll see if it affects any of the outer edges or not. I've never done that before. I have rusty bits in the pot. So these are like pieces of metal that I let get rusty in between batches. And I've got some copper pennies in there. Let me just dump this water out. Leaves. Calm the water down a whole bunch. Okay. Uh-oh, what did I do with the scissors? Okay. So when I bundled this tight, I couldn't get it any tighter. But as it sits in the water, these loosen up. So all I'm doing now is cutting it so I can unbundle it. And we will reveal and see what everything looks like. So I have on the top and the bottom corrugated cardboard. So this is a used priority mail box. This I don't really use. Sometimes I keep this on the inside. It's got some dyeing on it, but I don't necessarily, well, that one's got a leaf on it, so I don't typically use it though because it says the priority mail on it, but that's pretty cool if you can see it. I'm not sure how much of this is going to show, but we're going to give it a good value or opportunity. So I haven't done an actual boil. I talk about it probably every time I come on, but I haven't actually done a real boil in a while. This is cool looking already. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the leaves that I used. All right. At the very beginning of this video, I'm going to edit in some pictures of the plants in their natural habitat that I used. These are primarily like hibiscus leaves. This is, my mom got some flowers, and well, we got her flowers for Mother's Day. And what I did was, when I was cleaning the stems and whatnot to put in the vase, I kept some of the leaves. So this is a coleus plant. This is hibiscus. I had a leaf from a carnation right here. It was a bright pink one that was dyed, and I kept the leaf. Oh, here it is actually. We didn't get that much on the outline of the leaf, but we got some of the dyed color that was kind of injected to it. But mine are always double-sided. So this is the other side. And I'm not going to give you probably a whole lot of commentary. I'm just going to kind of reveal this one piece at a time as we go through. That's kind of cool. Now the pink dye from the leaves looks like it seeped through the paper, which is actually really cool too. It's the first time I actually used colored something that had been dyed by like the florist. I only had like maybe 4 or 6 of those leaves, so we're not going to be seeing that all the way through this reveal, but it's pretty cool. Look at that from the pink. Now it went to dyes, it always looks a little bit different than what it does when it's wet too. So we got some really good green. We've got some like purple and brown. That looks awesome. But I do the big pieces and then some little ones. So when I'm selling the kits, you get the, you know, the big 8x12 piece and then some smaller ones so that you don't have to cut the great big one up. This one doesn't have too much real definition to it as far as outlines on the leaves, but the colors are awesome. This is really cute. These are from roses, a rose leaf, and this is hibiscus right here. So now these darker leaves throw a lot of color. While I was layering everything up, I do spray it with alum water. So I put it in a little tiny spray bottle and just kind of every time I lay something down, I give it a spritz. So the alum helps draw out like the greens, and while everything is in the pot, I actually have some white vinegar in that water as well. Okay, so this here, this is an Arbicola Schefflera Arbicola, sorry. And there's one of the coleus leaves again. And the back side with the Arbicola hibiscus leaves. And what's really cool is the small pieces of paper. I like how they kind of leave little framework on the bigger pieces. Isn't that cool? Can you guys see it? Hopefully I'm kind of in frame. got myself playing where I can kind of see it, but I'm looking more at the plants than I am on my iPad. So hopefully I have at least enough here for maybe 3 sets that I can put in my shop. But before we get that far, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures, because with my new computer I got to learn a Photoshop program, but I want to make digitals of all this for you guys and for me. And the edge of the hibiscus plants, and that's so cool. I don't always get a lot of the definition of the actual leaves. Sometimes it's just the colors, and I go back and forth which ones I like best. But this is on mixed media paper, so it's a little bit heavier weight, like 90 pounds. I traditionally do not do regular photocopy paper type of thing. It doesn't hold up. I know a lot of other people use it and it works up fine, but some of my plants are kind of bulky. Like this one, this arbicola plant, it's really, when you squish it down, it leaves pretty good indentations in the paper, and some of the thinner papers just tear. So if you ever get eco dyes from anybody and they're torn, they probably would do better or have better success if they just used a little bit heavier paper. It just depends on the plants, I think, too. This is gorgeous. So in this light, it's hard to see what color this really is. I think it's more of a brownish color, browns and greens. See? But one of these days, as I promised in the past, I'll do a video while I'm putting it all together. For whatever reason, I just didn't today. I just woke up and wanted to get it started, so I didn't really set up camera or anything like that. I just did it before I changed my mind. Quite an assortment in coloring on these, huh? Some are just real green and some are more red or brown. Very cool. Like I said earlier, you just never know really what's going to happen. All right, so in half of this batch I used Boston Fern, and the other half I pretty much didn't. So now we're getting into the pages where I used the fern, and that's kind of blue and green, at least while it's wet. You see? And then once it dries, sometimes the blue comes out even more. And when I do it, I kind of layer them up so that the darker leaves are sometimes more behind the more green ones, because they actually throw a little bit more color. The water that I'm rinsing it in is more like room temperature, more on the cooler side. There's some more fern. Sometimes I go back and forth which leaves are my favorite too, but the ferns are always so pretty. So like I said, double-sided. Oh, look at that piece right there. Isn't that cool? And here we have the light color. So I'm just setting this aside. I have a cookie rack in the sink because it's a double sink, so it's in the sink next to me. And I'm just basically stacking it. And then I let it drain just a little bit before I lay them out on a beach towel. And I just turn on the ceiling fan and let them air dry. I've never cooked these to dry them. All right, so here is some more fern. On the back side of this is actually rosemary. And from what I've read, it throws more like a yellowish color. So you can kind of see that right here. And also there's a little bit more yellow on the same piece of paper. Not so much on the bottom side of it doesn't look like though. Wow, look at that. Can you guys see it? I have to pause and see what you're seeing, what it looks like. So we're getting pretty close, I think. Oh, we got a bunch yet. I'm gonna say I think we're getting pretty close to the end. So there's a fern with the coleus leaf behind it and the fern on the top. That's a hibiscus leaf. We've got our coleus and some more fern. So yeah, I went to Home Depot probably about 2 months ago and bought 2 hanging ferns. So that, because I have one older plant that I've been kind of chopping up to death and it's not doing real well growing outside, but its stems and leaves are tougher, so they hold up to the eco-dyeing better. A little tear right there. But when it dries, usually it dries pretty good. Whoop. Pretty cool, huh? I think I did one of these reveals that was at night. It was really late. This is the first time I ever did it in the morning, and I have to say it wasn't as physically demanding. I love the reveals, but sometimes it's hard to get through the setup part, the prep. Standing at the counter and I'm gonna hesitate so I can see what you're seeing. Oh yeah, it looks pretty good. And see, here we got the frame again. This is a beautiful set. I don't think I've gotten quite this color before. So it's not real evident like where the beet juice was because I put it in the water while it was cooling. It wasn't part of the boil. But I think, oops, sorry. But I think it helped darken some of the edges a little bit. Okay, so I got some more rosemary on those bottom pieces. So you can see the edge of the paper that was underneath it. Isn't that cool? So yeah, the rosemary doesn't really do a lot. I mean, you can't even smell it while it's cooking. Kind of just smells like, I don't know. Doesn't smell very good, does it, Mom? But just make sure you do it in a well-ventilated area. Make sure you know the materials you're working with, too. I forget who was doing an eco dye, and they actually had some poison oak in their batch, and it created quite the situation. I think they had to go to the emergency room. So please, please know what you're working with. I can't remember who it was. But maybe they'll come on and say, yeah, it was me. So you can kind of see I just have my leaves just kind of layered over top of each other. Some of them leave a lot of color, some of them just leaves some impression, or a little of both, or not at all. Sometimes I've had papers that really didn't have much going on them at all. They just had some cool coloring, not much, you know, leaf impressions. So once this is completely dry, I'll come on and do another video so you can see what it truly looks like. It has a tendency to not necessarily fade, but the colors are a little more richer and saturated. Yeah, I guess it's fade when it's wet. Oh, that's cool. Some more fern. Okay, not too much more to go. So there's lots of different ways to do these eco dyes. I see a lot of people put it in like a roasting pan and do it in the oven. I've never tried it that way. I've always done it on the stovetop, folding it. When you do it the other way, depending on your roasting pan, you can pretty much lay the pages flat. You know, see how I've got mine folded in half? See, this doesn't have a lot color-wise at all. Backside does. That's really cool. And this side's got some really cool colors, but not a lot of leaf impression. It's got a little bit of yellows and green, definitely brown, and almost a purple. Oh, wow. Nice, nice, nice. Isn't that cool? That's like a purple. Some folks that do the eco dye too, it's not even all that much real impression from the plants. It's just the colors that are thrown. Wow. So when I'm rinsing, I'm not just using the water to get the plants off the paper, but I'm rinsing the alum off it too. So that way, once they dry, they're not filmy. Because depending on how much alum you use, it can feel kind of gritty. And I don't know if you've ever had that stuff on your hands, but it like soaks or sucks all the moisture out of your skin. Okay, I think this is like the last bit. Oh, that's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what these look like dry. And the last one. Ta-da! Okay, that's it. And I have a little leaf impression on the cardboard on the other side. I usually keep at least the corrugated piece. And then I just use that in my projects and whatnot. Okay, so now I just have to collect all my garbage. Put this down on my towels, and it probably won't be until tomorrow that they're completely dry. So I will see you again then, and I'll show you what everything looks like, and we'll look at them front and back, and then we'll get them listed. All right, have a great night, or a great day. It's really only what? Well, it's 2:30 now, but by the time you see this, it'll be who knows when. All right, my friends, take care, and we'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye-bye. Okay, so all the papers are dry now, and I'm going to do a quick little kind of flip through so that you can kind of see them. Let me go ahead and do a minor adjustment, and I'm going to have a seat. All right, so these are all going to go in my Etsy shop. I will be selling them. And eventually I will have digital prints of exactly how you see them, and also some variations, you know, making it a little more subtle for background or whatnot. I don't know. I haven't totally played with that programming just yet. I am learning. Actually, I'm learning my new computer a little bit first. But aren't they gorgeous? Holy cow. This was a really good batch. If they would just be more consistent, you know, with how they respond to the boil, the mixture, the leaves, you know, what I have in the water, it always comes out a little bit different. I just never know what it's going to look like. But let's go ahead, and everything, if you remember, is two-sided. So there's no real front or back or top or bottom. We've got some fern and the Scheffler arboricola. Did I show the other side? Lots of fern. I did half of the batch with a lot of the fern leaves, and then the other with more of the coleus. So they're so pretty though. Look at that detail. Let me try and bring it up close. I'm just going to delay a little bit so that the camera catches up. I can see what you're seeing. Okay. Isn't that gorgeous? Of course, it could just be very much like our kids. We all think our kids are beautiful, and then there's, you know, when you see some people's kids, I don't know. But this particular batch was really nice and consistent in its coloring. How pretty this is. This is a coleus leaf, and it's got some fern, and that's hibiscus and the fern, which those are the 4 plants that I typically use. These are all hibiscus leaves. Hibiscus leaves here as well. And this one is the coleus and the hibiscus and the fern. How pretty they are though. So in this particular batch, what I did is I poured actual brewed coffee. I had leftover coffee one day. On Mother's Day, what we did is we made a pot of coffee for after dinner. But nobody actually drank it, so I just poured it into my boil kettle, and then the next morning which was Monday, I did this. Today is Tuesday on the filming, but it's going to be Wednesday when I release it. So I had coffee in the water. I spray the plants with alum. Here, let me grab it. Just in case you're unfamiliar with what the alum is, you can just get it in the spices or canning section of your grocery store. I got this one at Walmart, and I think this was like $3.44. It's kind of expensive, and I just mix. I just put some in this bottle. How much? I'd say maybe less than a teaspoon, and I just put it in the water and mix it up, and then I layer it. I just spray the paper, put down the leaves, spray the leaves, put down paper. And then right at the end of the boil, I put beet juice in the water. Now, you don't really see much evidence of the beet juice, but I think the combination is what gave us some of this darker color, especially around the outer perimeters and edges. Did I show you the other side of this one? So I was able to get on the large prints, and then how I combine them with the small prints. Normally when I sell them, there's like 5 of these that are double-sided, and then I include 4 of these smaller ones. I didn't used to do that, but it's hard to cut those bigger ones, so I just, now the little kits include. Isn't that pretty? Let's see, does that all fit? I'm just gonna wait and let it all catch up. And then more. This is roses, a rose leaf. My mom we brought home flowers for Mom, and this is rose leaves as well. And when I was cleaning the flowers and putting them in a vase, I stripped the ends of the stems so that the leaves don't sit in the water. That way the water doesn't get mucky. So when I cut them off, I just put them in a little baggie and popped them in the fridge so that I could use them for this boil. And they turned out really good. I didn't know, how they would react. I also used some other leaves. I'll show them to you when we get there. That's a nice big coleus leaf. Actually, this is one of the leaves right here. I used carnation that had been dyed. So this is a leaf off of, actually it was a chrysanthemum. I'm sorry, not a carnation. So it was big and it was pink. And the leaves, again, I stripped the stems when I put them in the water, and I kept the leaves. Now the leaves were kind of reddish from the dye of the flower, because the flower was bright pink. And it didn't give me much of an outline, and it did throw a little bit of color. You can kind of see the color is in the smaller ones that were close to it in the stack. But it really didn't do a lot. I was curious to see what would happen with the color. Not a lot. So in my sets, I have 5 of the large prints and then 4 of the smaller, everything being double-sided. Aren't they gorgeous? Now this is rosemary. Now rosemary is supposed to infuse yellow into the water. Because there was so much going on in the water, that's probably why we didn't see more of it. But there is a little bit of yellow, and you can kind of see the woody sprigs on here. And then coleus. So coleus and hibiscus. Isn't that cool? I just love them. It's so hard for me to part with them. And here's another fern leaf, but it's kind of in a brownish hues. That is so pretty. It's not usual that I get a brown, at least that shade. It's so pretty. We've got the hibiscus leaves. Here's another one here. Look at the colors in that. All the different greens, the brown, the black, the yellow. Too cool. These were seed pods from the coleus plant. If you can see it, you can kind of see the little bead-like detail in the string, but it was like the seed pod. And it's so interesting how some of them are nice and light and subtle, and other ones are so dark. Here's some really pretty fern pieces. And again, we have the brown. That is so pretty. And green. And yellow. Yellow doesn't happen a lot either. A lot of times I get yellow. So here's a little, it's a little more obvious. That is rosemary and a hibiscus leaf. But I get yellow and orangey colors when I use onion skins. I did not use any onion skins in this batch. So here is a big coleus, and here's the Schefflera arboricola. And here's the other piece that had the rosemary. See, that one's got almost a black, pigment in it. And I don't know why that happens. Why it gets black. Last piece. So those are my eco dyes. I haven't decided what to name this batch yet. But I should have it listed in another couple of days once I get it well photographed for what I want to do with the digitals, because once they're gone, I can't take more pictures, so I got to make sure I get a nice collection of photographs. But now you see, at least you didn't see me put it all together yet, stacking them and tying them and putting them in the pot. But at least now you saw me kind of taking them out of the pot, and how they were stacked, taking them apart. But I will show you the full process at some point. It's just, getting used to the camera and trying to do it over the sink and the lighting. It's a challenge trying to figure it all out. So, but once I do, it'll happen more frequently. So thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you liked what you saw. Make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see, because I'm going to do some more. And the next batch, I'm going to see if I can influence it in a way that we get some more reddish tones. So I'm going to go a little heavier on the beets. I'm still going to use coffee, and I might not use the alum. The alum is what pulls out the green from the plants. So we shall see. I don't know. We'll figure it out though. Have a great day. Alrighty. Take care, my friends.